Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Saints are back at it, getting ready for Monday Night Football against Seattle as they're coming off of their bye. And we shared the news with you on Tuesday that Will Lutz, Marcus Davenport, and Tre'Quan Alexander have all been designated to return from IR. What that means is they are eligible. Their window is now open to return to the active roster. And it's a 21-day window. Once you've been designated to return, you have a 21-day period where at any point during those 21 days, you could be added back to the active roster. So once they're healthy. So you would assume Tre'Quan, Davenport, Lutz, all three of those will be back and playing within the next 3 weeks at some point. And I started to think about this. Tre'Quan Smith is also in that group who should very well be back. Remember, Eric McCoy and Teron Armstead never went to IR. They were just scratches. So they never went to IR because if you go to IR, then you have to miss at least 3 weeks. And the hope was that those guys wouldn't have to miss 3 weeks. Now they have. And so they could be back at any point regardless. But they never went to IR. So I'm just talking about the guys that went to IR. And I was thinking about this. And which of those would be most valuable for New Orleans this week, certainly, and moving forward? And there's a case to be made for Tre'Quan, obviously. It means you're starting weak side linebacker opposite to Mario Davis. Marcus Davenport was, in the opener against Green Bay. He had a tackle for loss. He had a sack before he hurt his pectoral muscle. And then Tre'Quan, everyone was expecting, with the Saints being so thin at receiver, Tre'Quan would add at least an experienced guy that has some deep threat ability. If I started thinking about it, which of those guys might be the most important for this team in the short term? There's a case to be made for Tre'Quan because he's a starter on the defensive side and such an impact guy. But for me, it's actually Marcus Davenport. I think of all the guys that are out right now, Davenport, for me, is the one that I think they most need back in a hurry. And follow me here. I think the Saints are a team that obviously this version of the Saints is going to lead with defense. They're going to be a team that their defense paces them and their offense plays complementary football until Sean Payton is comfortable enough to open up this offense, which it seems like they're getting there. But when they're healthy, when Michael Thomas notwithstanding, we all understand that he's the best player of all these and the most important to get back. But I'm talking about the ones that went to IR. Because when Thomas is back and Tre'Quan and the offense is whole, then you'll start to see what it looks like when they get their rhythm. You hope by December they're full-on sprint and you're playing your best ball going into the playoffs. But until then, this team is going to be paced by defense. And the reality is that this Saints team's pass rush has been not only awful, it's been non-existent. New Orleans, through 5 games, has just 8 sacks. That's 30th in the NFL. 30 out of 32. This is coming off back-to-back seasons where the Saints were top 10 in sacks. Last year, the Saints were 8th in the NFL with 45 sacks. We all know what's happened. You saw Trey Hendrickson leave in free agency to Cincinnati. Cam Jordan, the production just hasn't been there. At least the sack numbers haven't been there, even if the pressures have. And you just haven't been able to replace that production from Trey Hendrickson. Now, it sure looked like Marcus Davenport was going to be that guy the way he started this season. And that would create a rotation with Granderson behind him and Tano Passanio coming in, who had, if you remember, a sack and a forced fumble in that first game. And then behind that, you could talk about a Carl Granderson, and you could talk about Peyton Turner, and then you have a rotation and fresh legs, and that's how you can generate that rush. But when Marcus Davenport went out and Tano Passanio got injured and it shuffled guys and Peyton Turner had been nicked and he had to play inside and out, you're just thin and you've been awful there. When Marcus Davenport comes back, provided he's healthy and in the form that he was showing early, that should either do one of two things. If teams continue to focus on Cam Jordan, you have the same effect that happened last year for Trey Hendrickson, where you're going to double team Cam. All right, let my guy on the other side get a one-on-one. And if they decide to start, if Davenport starts going off and teams start to shade their pass protection toward Davenport, then maybe Cam has an opportunity to win some more one-on-ones, which he hadn't had that opportunity in a long time in his career. So, and you get your rotation. The other guy I'll throw out randomly is maybe Zach Bond. Because Quan's about to come back, and because Pete Werner has proven to be a more than capable starter in the NFL, second-round pick as a rookie, we questioned it because we didn't really get to see it in preseason. He didn't look out of place at all against Washington. And I would imagine there'll be rookie moments for Pete Werner, but the drop-off, Quan to Werner, doesn't seem as severe as we all might have anticipated. So because you're going to have Quan back and Werner, that kind of frees you up to say, hey, Zach Bond, do the thing you do really well. Line up as an outside backer, put your hand in the dirt, and just get off and go get the quarterback. Even if it's a third down pass rush specialist. If you need to generate a pass rush, maybe that's the way to go do it. So of all these guys, I'm most interested, most excited to see Davenport come back. And the second guy I'll tell you, and this might sound a little odd and a little bit of a reach, but it's actually, work with me here. It's actually Nick Vannett. And this is why. Sean Payton, his entire time in New Orleans, he has always had the pass-catching tight end, right? If it was Jeremy Shockey, if it was Jimmy Graham, when they went and got Kobe Fleener and Jared Cook, and now it's Adam Troutman, he's always had that guy. But he's also always had the blocker. If it was Dan Campbell or Human or more recently Josh Hill, they've always had that guy. That guy on this team supposed to be Nick Vannett. Well, he got hurt, and so Adam Troutman has been forced into that role, and that ain't what he does. Troutman has the possibility to be a very good pass-catching tight end. I think he will grow into that role. But lacking that guy, lacking that extra blocker, it's made your pass protection weaker, it's made you predictable by personnel, and I think it's put more on Troutman's plate than he's ready for. If you get Nick Vannett back into this offense, you add a blocker, which gives Jameis more time to throw, which opens up your running game even more, and it frees up Troutman to be more of a pass catcher. So I know that's a one-off and that's going to sound random, but I think that's one of those guys who does things that isn't going to show up in the stat sheet. He does things that won't be, of course you can chart anything, but it's not going to be the receptions or the touchdowns or anything like that, and it's exciting to watch Juwan Johnson go make those plays, but I think having Vannett play his role is going to open up guys to do the things they do really well. So that's another guy keep in mind when he comes back. He's brought here to be the next Josh Hill. Let's see if he can be that guy. And then, begrudgingly, I will give you Tre'Quan. I will give you Tre'Quan because the Saints are so thin at receiver. Because they have had to find creative ways in the passing game to get the passing game going in some way. It's just, listen, the Saints have been anemic passing. But we have gone through where in the past 2 games, Sean Payton has at least opened up the passing attempts for Jameis Winston. And he's looking at opportunities to stretch the field. And I think we're going to see more of that. And the one thing, and this is my hope, this is my knock on Formica hope, is that Tre'Quan, had he been in this New Orleans offense 8 to 10 years ago, maybe his production would be at a vastly different level. He's that speedy guy that can blow the top off. And in the later years of Drew Brees' career, the Saints just weren't that as a passing offense. The Saints were more of a dink and dunk, cut you up, death by 1,000 paper cuts, because that's what Drew Brees' superpower was. When he had lost the arm strength, his accuracy was still his superpower. So you go draft Michael Thomas, because Michael Thomas, within 15 yards of the line of scrimmage, you throw it in a certain catch ratings, he's going to come down with it. Alvin Kamara, you could dump it to him. He can make in space, make a guy miss, and you throw a 2-yard dump-off pass that goes for 8 or 12. The Saints haven't had the Ted Ginn, the Devery Henderson, because Breeze hasn't been able to do that. Jameis can. And I know right now that really is the thing that Deontay Harris specializes in. But you put Tre'Quan on the field as well, it's another deep threat. At least a guy that can create spacing on the field if he can run a safety or a corner on a deep route. So I'm at least curious to see with this quarterback. And remember how much time we saw the stories this offseason about Tre'Quan going out to the West Coast and working with Jameis and getting their timing together. Like, I would at least be interested, because they've been so thin at receiver, what it's going to look like to have someone who has actually played NFL football games and been a competent, at times, NFL receiver with that skill set, what he might bring to this offense. So the Saints are getting healthier. It's something that we expected would happen coming off the bye. We should find out soon which guys are going to be available for this Monday Night Football against Seattle. As the injury report comes out, we'll certainly dive into all of it. But I really think those are the guys immediately who you're looking forward to have the biggest impact on this team as they make their way into Monday Night Football against Seattle, and beyond that against Tampa and Atlanta, and then get into the second half of the season. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.